All right, let's get this thing going. I'm gonna put my light on. Now let's get this thing going. So, guys, today we're going to be talking about the statement, I can't. But before we get into the show, as always, as you tune in, make sure to share the show around with a friend, with a teammate, with someone who is going to need to hear this message. This one is going to be very mindset focused, mindset driven. Because honestly, guys, without the mindset, you have nothing. I don't care how good your skills are. If you don't have a good mindset coming into competition, you will not be successful long term. You just won't. So we're going to dig into this today. We're going to be talking about the statement, I can't, and how switching up that statement is something that is going to change the future that you have, whether it's in your sport, business, whatever else it is you're pursuing. So let's get into the show. Why don't we? Let's go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the number one show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about the phrase, I can't. Now, why did I want to bring this one to you guys? Because this is the most typical self-limiting belief that I hear on a daily basis. I can't train. I'm too busy. I can't afford to hire a coach. I can't find a job. I can't do this. I can't do that. Whatever it is you're saying to yourself that you can't do, you've got to understand it's just continuing to push forward along that goal. One of the examples that I want to bring to you guys is over the last 6 months or so, 6-7 months, I started a routine where I wake up at 4:30 in the morning every single morning. Now, this is one of those things that, do I have to wake up at 4:30 to be able to have a productive day? No. One of the reasons that I decided to start doing it is I decided to start doing it because it was just a hard thing for me to do at the start of every day that sets me up to be able to take on other hard things that I have to do during my day. That's simple. And for the first couple of months, I was working at it myself, just, doing it every day. And honestly, I can 100% say there was one day that I missed. I woke up at 4:30, hit the snooze button, rolled back over, and then basically felt like a piece of shit for like 2 minutes and then got myself up before the second alarm even went off. But there was that one day that I missed. And every other day I have hit dead on every single day. And I was having a conversation with somebody about that yesterday. And I don't do that for the whole, I'm proving that I'm going to work harder than you or anything like that. I do it for me. I just focus on doing those things and doing those hard things for me. That's it. So I started doing this routine. And then a couple of months ago, one of my mentors told me, you should start talking about that. You should start broadcasting that. You should start putting things about that out into the world. And so what I started doing is I started just posting a picture of the view off my balcony and then putting the time, as I got up and got over to it. It's usually 4:31, 4:32. And I had someone ask me about that yesterday. They asked me, first, why do you do that? And I explained, it sets me up for a better day when I start my day off by keeping a promise to myself. And it sets me up to succeed on any given day. And he told me that he hates how much he loves that he sees that post from me every day because, he sees it every day and he's like, oh man, like he hit it again. So every day that he slacks off or every day that he sleeps in or every day that he's not, pushing himself towards his own goals, he sees that I am. And he was talking about it, like while we were talking about it, he mentioned to me, oh yeah, like I try to get up at 5:30 every single day, but some days I slip. I just can't do it every day, And I stopped him and I was like, yeah, you can. You can get up at 5:30 every day. You know how you do it? When your alarm goes off at 5:30, get up. That's it. It's literally that simple. But people have that limiting belief on themselves that, because something is hard, that means it can't be done. Now, I'm not saying you've got to get up at 4:30 in the morning every day or you got to, have some crazy routine or anything like that. But the main point of that story is that you can do anything that you decide to do. And one of the big reasons that I wanted to really bring this to you guys today as well is because I see this mentality in athletes all the time. Oh, I can't compete with that guy. I hear that from athletes a lot where they've got a really good guy in their gym and they're like, I'm working really hard, but like, oh, I can't compete with that guy. And it's like, yeah, maybe not now, but maybe that guy's been training 10 years longer than you have. And so instead of worrying about being as good as him, worry about learning from him so that you can get as good as him. And then you can compete with him. But just the way you frame that sentence in your mind, instead of, I can't compete with that guy, man, I have a lot to learn from that guy. Because you don't want to set the limitation on yourself to say, I can't compete, or I can't do it, or I can't achieve this. The same thing. And that is, again, coming back to the story at the beginning, that is one of my main drivers behind continuing to wake up at 4:30 in the morning every day. And guys, when I say that, I literally mean like there are days where I won't get to bed until 12:30, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm up at 4:30. But I'm also not stupid to think that I can function perfectly fine off of 3 hours of sleep every night. So if I have one of those days that, I don't get the sleep I need, or I'm, feeling super tired through the day or whatever else it might be, I give myself the rest. But I wake up at 4:30 regardless. So I wake up at 4:30, I do my morning routine, and then have been days where I didn't sleep well the night before. So I wake up at 4:30, I do my morning routine, and then I go back and I take a little 30-minute nap. And people have asked me about that as well, being like, well, why don't you just wake up later? And it's because I made that promise to myself that I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And it just reinforces in my mind that if I decide to do something, I can do it. And this leads to bigger things. This mentality leads to bigger things. Am I saying that I wake up at 4:30, so that's why I'm gonna, make a lot of money and have a lot of high level athletes? No, of course, there's a lot more that goes into it. But it starts by keeping promises to yourself. So where I see this a lot with athletes, like I said, is, training partners, not being able to compete with a training partner. Or I hear people all the time, oh, I can't train for the next few months because, I'm really busy with work and school. It's like, well, you can, but you're busy. So you just need to be smarter about how you balance it. Of course, it's easier to train when you don't have other things going on, but we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and we all have a lot going on in the day. But the ones who make it further, the ones who actually achieve the UFC dreams, or, those high level professional dreams, make the money, have the great life that comes with that, are the ones who figure it out. And that's actually, I want to bring up an athlete of mine that I've been working with for right around 2 years. Sorry, I keep itching at my nose if you're watching back on the live, but I want to bring up an athlete of mine that I've been working with for about 2 years, John. And John is one of the perfect examples of this. His training schedule isn't the craziest thing ever. He's not, in the gym for 5 hours every single day doing anything nuts. It's like, but he is the most consistent human being I've ever met in my life. He trains at my gym with me in Calgary. So any days that he can't make our regular time, he's finding an alternate time and he's getting the session done anyway. It's never, I'm too busy, so I can't make it. It's always, hey, I can't make this time, but is it okay if I come in, here, or here through the day? And he'll let himself into the gym and do his session, even if I'm not there. And it's one of those things, guys, that like, you need to learn how to keep yourself accountable, but you also need to learn how to not use the word can't. You need to learn how to switch that in your mind. One of the best things that I ever did for myself is now every time I find myself saying I can't do this, I consciously make the switch in my mind and say either this isn't a priority right now, or I haven't figured out how to do this right now, or I'm learning how to do this right now. And just by switching that mindset again, all it does is it keeps me in control. And that's what I want you guys to really take from this, is that you need to keep the control. Because one thing I see a lot as well is I see athletes that fake this. I see athletes, I'm thinking of a few different conversations overall, but I've seen athletes that, will be in my DMs and they'll be telling me, man, we should work together because like I'm headed to the UFC. I'm going to be the next lightweight champion. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They've got all these big goals. And then they don't stick to a training program. And guys, why do you expect to get an extraordinary result with ordinary action? Why do you expect to get an extraordinary result with ordinary action? If you're coming to me and you're saying, I'm going to be a UFC champion, I'm going to make millions of dollars, I'm going to do this, do that, do this, do that, and then you can't stick to a training program, understand that even if you're saying the words, you don't fucking believe what you're saying to yourself. Because if you believed it, if you believed that that training was actually leading somewhere, if you believed that you were actually destined for greatness, there would be no question. You'd be doing the work. But the fact that you say the words doesn't mean that you actually believe what you're saying. So that's what I really want to dig into with you guys, is I want you to ask yourself what your goals are for your career. So a lot of you, I know it's going to be, become a professional athlete, make my living with my sport, win world championships, whatever else it might be. And then from there, I want you to ask yourself, am I showing up as the person who's going to be able to achieve that goal? Because that is where the disconnect happens. And I want to really dig into that as well, because showing up as the person that's able to achieve that goal isn't just showing up. The fact that you got to the gym today doesn't mean that you're destined for greatness. The fact that you got to the gym 5 times this week doesn't mean that you're destined for greatness. What are you doing while you're there? How productive are the sessions? Are you actually improving while you're there, or are you checking the box to say I made it? What are you doing when you get home? How much recovery are you doing? How much rest are you getting? What does your nutrition look like? These are all questions you need to ask yourself. So if you're showing up to the gym every single day, you're working really hard, you're putting the time in, you're putting the effort in, and you're saying to yourself, I'm going to be a champion, I'm going to make millions, I'm going to do all these great things, but then you're ordering pizza 3 times a week, and that's how that's your dinner 3 times a week. Guess what? You're not doing the work required to become a champion. So even if you're saying that to yourself, you don't really believe it. Even if consciously you're saying, I'm going to be a champion, that is out of alignment with the goal that you were trying to achieve. It was the same thing for me. And I want to bring it back. Just again, it's an easy story that I think some people will relate to. But last year I quit drinking. And I didn't quit drinking because I had, some horrible problem where I was getting drunk every day or anything like that. But I quit drinking because it just wasn't an activity that served me anymore. I have goals of doing big things in my industry. I have goals of, becoming well known. I have goals of making a lot of money and seeing athletes of mine succeed at high levels. And when I was going out drinking, I would waste my Saturday night drinking and waste money while I was drinking. And then I would waste my Sunday to a hangover and lack of sleep. And then I'd likely waste my Monday to a hangover and lack of sleep. So I started asking myself, why am I doing this? Oh, well, it's fun. It's okay, first, it wasn't ever that much fun. I had my moments, but it wasn't ever that much fun. Mostly I was waking up the next days with regret and shame. But the second piece of that was, for the fun that it is, even if I was enjoying it every time I went, with the goals that I have, how much can I afford to take away from what I'm trying to achieve with my life for the short-term fun of going out drinking on the weekends? And I realized that the exchange was not even remotely worth it. So I cut it out and I stopped doing it. And, a lot of people have said to me since, well, why didn't you just, decide not to get drunk anymore and still sit and have a drink? And it's yeah, you could, but I also know my personality. And I know that when I have 1 or 2 drinks, I want to have 10 or 20 drinks. So I figure instead of putting myself in the position where I could slip up on that, I just said no more and I'm done. And so not, again, that you guys have to completely cut out things if you enjoy them, but ask yourself that question. How much is what I'm doing worth how much it's taking away from what I'm trying to achieve? If you like smoking weed, smoking weed every once in a while, is it going to have some horrible, horrible effect on your ability to compete? No. But you got to ask yourself, what I'm doing right now, what I want to achieve in the future, is what I'm doing actually aligning with what I want to achieve in the future? And if the answer is no, why do you still do it? If the answer is no, why do you still do it? And the reason I want to reinforce this, guys, is because we were talking about self-belief. We're talking about, athletes who basically fake that self-belief. They talk about all these great things they want to accomplish, but then they don't act in alignment with someone who is going to be able to accomplish those goals. And if you're not acting in alignment with the person who is going to be able to accomplish those goals, if you are not showing up every day as the person who could one day actually achieve world champion status, professional athlete status, all of these things you're after, then it's not going to happen. You don't wake up one day a professional athlete. You don't wake up one day a world champion. You don't wake up one day making your money from your sport. You work towards it forever. And eventually it happens because you've earned it over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's where the disconnect is with so many of you guys. You say you want to accomplish all these great things, but then every day you show up at the same level as you're at right now. You're not improving. You're not doing anything more. You're not deserving of the level that you want to be at. So when it comes back to the original point of this whole podcast, which was the phrase, I can't, what I need you guys to realize is that, first of all, you can. Whatever that goal is, you can. But where you need to take that is you need to understand that you can do it only if you start showing up as the person who deserves it. So if you want to be a world champion, you can't show up every day to training hungover. You can't fuel your body like a 6-year-old child whose parents left them home alone for the weekend. You need to actually learn how to eat properly. You need to actually learn how to train properly. You need to do what others aren't willing to do if you want to achieve what others aren't going to achieve. And that doesn't mean grinding your ass off for 20 hours a day in the gym. That means taking proper care of your body. That means getting rest when everybody else is going out. That means saying no to the party and being well rested for training. Like, these are the sacrifices you need to make if you want that kind of spectacular future. But so many of you say you want it, but then have every excuse in the book. I can't do it because I'm so busy right now. I can't do it because I don't have the money for it right now. I can't do it because of blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's not always going to be easy, but if you don't have the time right now, how can you make the time? That's one thing that I think a lot of you guys overlook as well. If you feel like you don't have the time to train, you need to figure out how to make the time to train. You can't just stop training if you have goals for your career. So like even tomorrow, I'm going to be running a training for all of my athletes on how to better balance your schedule, to teach them what they need to understand about how to properly balance your schedule in order to never, quote unquote, not have time to train. And does this mean that they're going to hit every single session forever and always? No, of course not. They're still going to miss things. People are still going to mess up. But instead of taking the attitude of, I'm so busy right now, so I can't, we take the attitude of, I'm so busy right now, so I need to figure out how. And that's what I really want you guys to take from this. Stop saying I can't and start figuring out how. So that is it. That is all. I appreciate all of you that tuned in, especially if you made it all the way to the end. This is honestly one of my favorite things to do with my week. And as always, my one ask of you guys is share the show with a friend, share it with a teammate, share it with someone that you know is going to benefit from this message. So again, I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.